Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to Talladega Super Speedway. This Tuesday evening, we've got a special event to put on for all of you guys. This is a non-points race in the middle of our Truck Series season here for 2025-1. And we've got a points race at Talladega exactly 1 week from now. It'll be the final of the regular season, so everyone here is going to get a little bit of a taste of what to expect, try to figure out some strategies, who you can work with, what to do and what not to do. We've got 60 laps tonight on this 2.6 mile track, and looking forward to it. Alongside me is Tom Richter.
Cody, so glad to have you up here. Talladega, the land of the unknowns, of all the tracks for our regular season finale to be ending at next week, where we have 14 drivers looking to make their playoff run. A lot of these drivers out here tonight getting some information that's gonna prove useful for next week. We have the same lap stages, we have the same fuel, we have the same tension out here tonight, Cody, as these drivers look to make their way into victory lane here.
You know what? Tension is great word for it. We've been sitting here watching everyone make laps around in practice, and can't count how many times somebody's been turned nose first into the wall. We've seen some trucks get airborne, and we're seeing everyone push it to the absolute limit and see absolutely everything they can get away with, how many inches they can give and how many inches they can take, all of it. This should be a really fun one tonight, especially with no points necessarily on the line for this one.
Yeah, this one is going to be a lot of fun, Cody. And on an exhibition race, we managed to get 25 drivers out here tonight. Everybody looking to gain that so valuable information for next week. Right now, we'll pull up your timing charts at the top of the board right now. Matthew Semple currently fastest on the board, followed by Tanner Marr and Cody Gibson. That's your top three. But Talladega, Cody, you can pick up a 40-sided die, and, well, you tell me who wins.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, that is absolutely the case, and this is something I always hold true myself when it comes to these drafting style tracks, is that while luck very much plays a part in it, and how much chaos there is and how you can avoid that chaos, I think the biggest thing you can do is be smart behind the wheel. The drivers who know how to manage a race in their heads over the course of a race, whether it's lap 1, lap 10, lap 50, whatever it is, the people who know how to put themselves in the right place at the right time, or more specifically, just avoid the wrong places at the wrong times, those are the people who I think you see usually have themselves in the conversation more often than others. I've got my eye on Greg Mitchell and Gary Bowman tonight in terms of people who know how to manage a race.
Yeah, Greg Mitchell, winner of Talladega last time Cyber Thunder Racing League was here. Gary Bowman, I think every time we come to a plate track, you talk about Gary Bowman. Gary Bowman gets the pole almost every single time. I'm going to be keeping my eye on Ed Jurgen. Ed Jurgen comes off of 2 consecutive Cyber 500 wins, and I think that experience carries over to tonight and helps him get into the playoffs next week.
Well, that's a great point, Tom. I got a real good view of his second one in a row when he passed me coming to the finish line for it. So, yeah, Ed Jurgen, good call, knows how to be there at the right time, and definitely knows how to be in the line that's moving forward, as many of our real-life racing counterparts like to put it. You don't want to be moving backwards at the end, and he had a real good run at the end of the 500, so he might be looking to capitalize here with this weekend, next week, both at Talladega.
Very real possibility, Cody, with just about under 3 minutes remaining in open practice here. Drivers are making their final laps around the track. Let's set the stage. Stages tonight for tonight's race. Lap number 20, the end of lap number 20, the end of lap number 45. And then the race runs to lap number 60. There will be a stage yellow at the end of lap number 20, but not at the end of lap number 45. So drivers going to be taking advantage, and we'll see these drivers try to make their way and see if they can make the entire stage.
Right, that's a great point with the stages, and with the fuel, as a matter of fact, I believe we got word that the fuel run is about 21 to maybe 24 laps, just kind of depending where you're running and how much fuel you might be using or saving. So that first stage, getting to that caution, I would imagine everyone would be good, but not throwing that caution for the second one is definitely going to be an interesting thing to watch, as with every other race we do, we've always got cautions at both of the stages, so it'll be really interesting to see how everyone kind of splits it up, and if the pack stays together or if we form multiple packs once the green flag stops start.
Well, Cody, we have about 90 seconds remaining here. We're going to go ahead and throw the red, the white, and the blue over Talladega Super Speedway, and we'll be back for your 5 minutes of qualifying.
All right, back just in time for qualifying here at Talladega, and something that Tom, you mentioned a little bit earlier is that Gary Bowman knows how to qualify at this track and at Daytona. Anywhere where you're putting your foot to the floor and you were just going all out, keep your eyes on Gary Bowman because he has something figured out.
Drivers get ready to strap in and do their 2 laps here at Talladega, see who makes their way out onto pit road first. Right now, we got a whole bunch of drivers hitting the track right now. Let's follow Amanda Sherman out here for her qualifying lap. Amanda takes the 88 out of pit road for the first time out here tonight.
Yeah, and I've been racing around Amanda for most of my time here in the Cyber Thunder Racing League, and one thing that I've seen out of Amanda is that when it comes to a plate race, whether it's here, whether it's Daytona, Amanda steps up that aggression by 2 or 3 times what she would normally race with. She sees one of these 2 tracks here or Daytona on the schedule, and she circles it, puts an exclamation mark by it, whatever you got to do. When we come here, watch out for Amanda Sherman because these types of tracks are where she is the most confident.
You can see her riding all the way up lane 3 against the wall there, trying to make the circumference of the track as long as humanly possible so that when she comes out to the start-finish line, she has the maximum RPMs. The RPMs, I think you were the one who told me, you said if the RPMs are going up, you're going in the right direction, Cody.
Yeah, it works something to that degree, and what you'll see with Amanda here on this first lap of qualifying is that she's not going to pull it to the bottom. At least most people won't be pulling it to the bottom. They'll try to stay as close to the wall as they can or as close as they feel comfortable with, and what that's going to do is effectively throw away this first lap in an effort to build up as much speed as you can. It might be as little as 1 mile an hour difference at the start and finish line, throwing away this lap versus trying to go all out on both of them. But every little bit counts. When you're at a place like Talladega, the margins in qualifying are so small, and it's all these little things that can make a difference, such as running the high line and wasting that first lap, right? How much wheel input you have, and even how you get off of the pits to get up to speed, not necessarily getting up to speed fast enough, but not heating your tires up too much because the cold tires here in qualifying seem to have an edge.
She ran a little bit lower, I think, than I would have expected to see from Amanda. We're keeping an eye on other drivers out on track. We'll jump around here in a moment, try to catch some others, but Amanda comes through with the 55.42, first time on the board. Chris Rose, and now more times start to come up here. Ran a little bit lower than I think to finish that thought.
Yeah, I was thinking so as well. I wonder if there was any sort of trying to play the angles on corner entry and corner exit. I had mentioned how you don't want to put too much wheel input into the corners. You'll kind of scrub off speed. So when you're all the way up against a wall, whether it's on corner exit especially, or sometimes on corner entry, you might have to yank it a little harder to keep it planted, whereas you might see people like Amanda trying to just widen those entries and exits just to keep the wheel straighter. Maybe that plays a bigger role. I guess we'll find out.
Well, we're taking a look here at Gary or Ed. Ed currently working on his second lap. He's already completed one. Or at least that's what Timon's telling me. If that's the case, Ed's running a lot higher than I would expect to see. That has to be incorrect. This has to be Ed's first out lap here. Yeah, he has not posted a time yet, so he's still coming up to speed. And a little bit of a difference from what we saw with Amanda. He rides all the way up to the wall, and we'll probably see him drop down here as he comes to the line. And yeah, there he goes.
Yep. That is a great way to do it. And something that we may potentially also see here at Talladega is at the end of the hot lap, cutting that apron just a little bit. I know in Daytona, it's a strategy that works really well. And here, you got to play it just right because it gets real bumpy down there. But we might see some of these guys who really know how to lay down a fast lap at Talladega start to cut that apron through the tri-oval here in Talladega.
Brad Holmes, we picked a fine time to go to Brad. Brad finishing up his second lap there, currently 8th on the board. Looking to see the man on the mission right now, Gary Bowman, has not yet come out of pit road. So I'm waiting to see Gary's name light up, and when we do, we're going to watch and see what Gary does.
I tell you what, Tom, if Gary does line up on pit road, I would love to get an onboard of how he preps for a lap here, because if anyone knows how to do it, it's Gary. Right
Andrew
now we've
Popejoy,
got... Oh, go for it.
Right now on Andrew Popejoy, working on his second lap. First time by, he posted 14th quick with a 55.13, looking to improve on his second lap. A little bit high exit there. That's going to slow down a little bit of speed. But Andrew Popejoy, see 174, 175, kind of bouncing between those two. Those two numbers right there as he comes through. See if he cuts the apron like you were talking about. He does not.
He does
Now,
not.
could that be Cody, that it may be more beneficial to do something like that at say Daytona,
Yeah,
as opposed to here where the start finish line's a little bit further down.
yeah, places like Daytona, even the new Atlanta, and in how much you can get away with it before iRacing might ping you for the off track, definitely going to benefit more. Here, it's definitely much riskier. But as we hit the end of qualifying here, it looks like Eric Anderson going to come out on top with just narrowly squeaking out Ed Yergin, who we had watched make his laps.
Well, Cody, we're bringing back a cyber tradition. Let's go ahead and bring up the bells here, because we've got our full qualifying results out here. Starting on the pole, as you were saying, Eric Anderson in the 43 machine. To his outside, he's got Ed Yergin, Rick Thompson, Corey Sherman, and Chris Rose. That's the top 5. Back half of the top 5, looking at the top 10. Amanda Sherman starts in row number 3, next to Clay Sampson. Behind them, they got Mike Stuyvesant, Jackie Brannon, Chris Letts. I need to fix that name. And also Brad Holmes is your top 10.
Right, in 11th place, we've got Lee Campbell just on the outside of the top 10, alongside Matthew Semple, trying to make up some positions early here in this race. Andrew Popejoy will start 13th, joined by Andy Cork. In row 8, we've got Nicholas Popejoy and Leroy Goblins trying to push on up through the field. They've got someone real good behind them. Gary Bowman starting at 17th alongside Dustin Ping, last week's winner in Chicagoland. Greg Mitchell, 19th, and Tanner Marr rounds out the top 20.
And rounding out the field of 25 drivers out here tonight, Cody Gibson starts in 21st, next to Larry Bell. That's going to be row number 11. Fred Thompson in position number 23. Angel Vasquez and Casey Tomlinson is your field of 25 drivers out here for tonight's race.
All right, I'm getting excited for this one. We've got 60 laps ahead of us. Everyone is just about done gridding up on track, and I'm excited to see what we see out of everybody as soon as the green flag drops. Are we going to see those in the back trying to make their way up and kind of overcome the results of qualifying, or are we going to see some people kind of playing it easy, playing it safe, and just feeling out the field?
I think you're going to see a little bit of both here, Cody. There's not, well, we'll look at that. Not a whole lot of risk here, right? As 25 drivers get set to go. Maybe you do something here tonight to test for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I know if I were behind the wheel, I would be doing everything I could to learn as much as I can for next week's race and give myself the best shot, especially if I'm somebody on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoff picture. We've got some people who are real close to making it in Talladega. They are either licking their chops at it or they are terrified going into that for our regular season finale.
As the field begins to make their way out of turn number 2, they're looking at 60 laps in front of them. Field of 25 drivers behind the pace car. Let's see if this button works. That does not work. We'll get that fixed. We were trying to get the pace car camera. There is a pace car camera that we've got. It's pretty fancy looking. You see the lights flash and all that kind of fun stuff. But Cody, I know that all these drivers, all their nerves are getting heavy right now as I try to switch around here.
There we go. I've got the cameras up to date. Yeah, the nerves will be high, but I think they'll be a lot higher next week. I think right now we're going to see people like the second row, Rick Thompson and Corey Sherman. They're going to be sitting here. They're going to be antsy. They're going to be real anxious to get this going and really start to get into the rhythm and start planning for next week. I think you'll probably see row 2 right there. Those two will be some of the most aggressive drivers that we'll have all night tonight.
Cody, we're about ready. It's about time for that pace car, for the iRacing.com pace car to make its way down to pit road, make that hard left-hand turn down pit road here. Cody, what do you say we throw the green flag on 60 laps at Talladega?
I say let's do it. Eric Anderson in control of the field as we make our way through the long tri-oval here at Talladega. The finish line is a little bit further down into the restart zone we go. Green flag is out, and off we go. Looks like we've already got 3 wide off of turn 2 as Ed Jurgen jumps to the outside. Eric Anderson, the lone truck in the middle line right there, going to be pulled all the way back unless somebody jumps up behind that 43 truck to help him out. Looks like they've already closed in on him. Rick Thompson from row number 2 is going to lead us through 3 and 4 with Chris Rose on his rear bumper.
Yeah, Eric lost a bunch of spots on lap number 1, started on the pole, right now currently in 8th. We heard, Cody, before that the fuel run is anywhere from 21 to 24 laps. Stage ends at lap number 20, so you figure maybe we're already seeing some fuel games here. You know, the lead car is going to punch a bigger hole in the air than somebody else pushing them. Ooh, sideways for the 3 there, but maybe a little bit of fuel games that we're already seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll see a little bit of a mix of it, especially with this race not having any official points on the line. People might be a little more inclined to do something risky, like try and stretch the fuel and see what they can get away with. It'll be something to keep an eye on. And another thing that I did notice as well, we caught a little glimpse of it at the drop of the green flag, is that we had Amanda Sherman starting on the pit road, did not even grid. So that'll be a storyline that we'll have to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, issues for the 88 already. We followed the 88 in qualifying. She had some issues with her VR, so she's trying to, as we look, see 4 wide here coming across the line on lap number 3. Man, these guys are getting at it, but yeah, issues early for the 88, sideways for the 20.
They save it. That was incredible.
Everybody saves it.
Absolutely. And one thing I had to think there for a second is Eric Anderson in the 43 going around Ed Jurgen in that 4 wide situation had to just be thinking about karma or something of the like after Ed sent him 3 wide on lap 1. But we saw, I believe it was Ed who got into the back of the 20 of Mike Stiverson, got him sideways. I don't know how they didn't wreck right there. That looked like it was going to be bad.
It certainly did, and everybody seems to have took notice to that. And the top now 5, 6, maybe 7 cars, they've kind of single filed out. Lee Campbell leads the outside charge as somebody down there is having a moment.
Yeah, that looks like that bright green M&M's truck. It is really hard to see that bright blue number on there, but I think it's the 77. I think we saw Gary Bowman just barely clip into him. I think it was just one of those wrong places, wrong times through the tri-oval here at Talladega, which can always be uncertain when you're bump drafting and you're 2 wide or 3 wide or what have you. Something to keep in mind is, you know, how people are pushing the rear bumper of those in front. At least with the trucks, you can lock on a little bit better. They're not as pointed as something like the current next-gen Cup Series car. So I don't imagine we would see too many wrecks from pushes unless it's that bad, and it'll mostly be the tri-oval we'll have to keep an eye on.
So to break away from this action right now, Amanda Sherman did make her way out on track, currently on the backstretch. If we pull up our track camera, you can see the difference between her entering turn number 3 and where the lead pack is. So with this first stage only being 20 laps, I still think that they'll probably catch her. However, she will likely be the only car 1 lap down, barring any sort of incidents or crazy things that happen between now and then. So that is what Amanda is holding on to.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of crazy things to happen, we have got quite the line of 3 trucks on that high side trying to form a third line, led by Matthew Semple, winner a couple weeks ago, Dustin Ping last week's winner, and Greg Mitchell, who is always in contention for a win. Those 3 lined up nose to tail. That's a dangerous picture right there if you're anyone but those 3.
Yeah, you can see Rick Thompson, Clay Sampson, they're working down on the inside line. Lee Campbell, Eric Anderson, they lead line number 2. And then line number 3 being led by, like you said, Matt Semple and Dustin Ping. You take a look, though, at the lines, Cody, right now. Clay Sampson just has to get out of line for something, but you take a look at the lines. I like where the 81 and the 16 are running. Don't see a whole lot of daylight between those 2 where you do on the other 2 lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we'll see is we'll kind of see 2 different things happen from this. That high line is going to have an advantage, especially now that those lower ones are breaking apart as the 60 falls back just a little bit. And Dustin saves himself from the second effect that he was going to see pretty quick. And it's when you lock on really good to the guy in front, it's kind of a trade-off. You're going to perform better than anyone who's not doing that, but these trucks can overheat extremely quickly. You can see the wings on the back of these things, the spoilers. Those things are massive, especially when you're behind the wheel. You can't see anything, and your engine is not getting any air when you're tucked up back there. So temperature management is definitely going to be a big thing. We might see some individuals like Cody Gibson here in the 1 and the Cheetos truck pushing Corey Sherman in the 3 to the lead. You might see a lot of this throughout the night, and one thing to keep an eye on is they can only do it for a lap or maybe 2 laps before they have to start taking it easy. They'll either dive out of line or they'll let off a little bit, and that's one of the things that forms the different runs, the pushes, the pulls, the different lines having an advantage, and some of them kind of dissipating.
Tell you what, Cody, you want to see something scary. Let's go on board here with Matt Semple. We're going to take a look if we can do it. This is what Matt Semple sees in his rearview mirror right now. He sees 3 lines of cars trying to move forward, and everybody's bobbing and weaving just a little bit right here as Greg gets off of him. They're going to lose a little bit of a run coming through the tri-oval here. Corey Gibson, or Corey Sherman and Cody Gibson, they're able to make the middle line work here. I think if I'm Mike Stiverson here, or I think if I'm Gary Bowman or maybe Lee Campbell, I think now that they're kind of out there, we got a yellow out on the track here, Cody.
Oh, yes, we do. That is interesting, and that's going to be great timing
Andy,
if you are the 3 or the 1.
Andy Cork, let's take a look and see what happens with Andy Cork here as the field slows for the first time out here tonight. Let's
Oh, he was already gone for a ride, missing the whole rear bumper. Something serious had gone on with poor Andy Cork in the 41.
Let's try changing that, and we'll see if we get a better look. We do not at what happened to Andy Cork, but Andy Cork hard up in the outside wall. Now, this is not the end of Andy's race. All drivers do have one fast repair that they're able to use for tonight. I think looking at this truck from behind the wall here, I think this is probably going to be a fast repair usage for the 41.
Yeah, and this being a non-points race, they do have that at their disposal, all of the drivers tonight, to hopefully keep them out on track and allow them to get as much information as they can, as much on-track time as they can going in the next week and our points race here. So Andy will be real happy about that, but real unhappy with what led to that incident right there.
Field begins to slow down here for the first time, kind of almost halfway through the stage, lap number 9 of 20. This benefits Amanda Sherman. This brings her back up to the back of the field. Now, if you're up here in the front, right, there's no stage points out here tonight, right? But you come down here, I don't know if it really benefits anybody by coming down and maybe getting more fuel, because you still can't run to 45.
No, but something that 1 or 2 drivers might be conscious of, especially if they don't have the track position particularly, is that any fuel you take now is less fuel you have to take at the end of the stage. Now, obviously, tires are going to play a factor whether you are or are not taking them. Going to be something to keep an eye on, but I would have that in mind if I were behind the wheel right now. Is, you know, I could take half a tank right now, and then at the end of the caution, I can be on pit road for half the time as some of the other guys. So
yeah, and you could see. Oh, yeah, that works. You could see some drivers on pit road. Mike Stiverson on pit road, Chris Rose on pit road, Greg Mitchell on pit road. So you can see the pit time down there, and that is service time, I believe.
Oh yeah, that is a fancy graphic I've not seen before, but useful information to have.
Take a look down here, see Nicholas Popejoy coming off. Is that Tanner Marr, Amanda Sherman, Mike Stiverson, Ed still down on pit road.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Ed Jurgen in the 92 got some damage to the truck with that contact earlier in the race. Yeah, looks like that front
you can see it right there on the left front.
Caved in just a little bit, and at a track like this, you do not want damage on the front specifically, because that's where all the air is going. Now, what this will do for Ed is hinder his ability to lead one of the lines in the draft, being that you're the truck that all the air is flowing over. Now, he could still tuck in behind somebody and do a pretty dang good job at it, especially if that spoiler isn't affected at all. It looks like it's just that left front. So something he'll have to be conscious of, depending on how much damage that actually wound up being, is whether he's in the lead of a line or whether he's going to become a dedicated pusher now.
Yeah, and there's still a couple of cars on pit road. Ed Jurgen still on pit road. Andy Cork still on pit road. Dustin Ping just left pit road. If you take a look at the track map, you'll be able to kind of see who's kind of still catching up right here. You see a couple of cars leaving pit road. Those are the drivers that we just mentioned, and everybody's getting caught back up to the pace car, and we're going to have about a Well, we'll call it about a 9-lap run to the stage yellow here at lap 20.
Yeah, about 9 laps to the stage. We're going to bunch the field all the way back up. We pretty much got a halfway intermission on stage 1 right here, and I think this will do nothing but ramp up the aggression, as they say. Cautions breed cautions, and that might just be something that we see with a little 9-lap shootout to the end of the stage right here, especially with some of the contenders that we have up towards the front. Some notoriously fast, notoriously aggressive individuals. Corey Sherman, of course, leading the race. Arguably one of the most aggressive, those in Cyber Thunder would say, and he's got control of this race. He's not going to give it up very easily.
So 9 laps down under green. Anybody stand out to you as ones that were being more aggressive than others, or maybe some that were being a little bit more cautious than others, Cody?
Yeah, I think the 16 of Matt Semple stood out to me as being somebody who was not content to do anything but get towards the front. And I think we saw some other drivers kind of make their way up there. I think the 3 and the 1 started a little bit better, or at least were up there earlier, at least before the 16 made his way up there. But the way he jumped out into that third lane when it started to form and kind of got out to the front and then was dicing it up with the leaders, I think the 16 has come to just absolutely throw everything at it, see what he's got, see what he can do. And I'll be excited to see if he can get to the front and keep it by the end of stage 1.
The field lines up 13 rows deep behind the iRacing.com pace cars. We are a half a lap away from going green on to begin lap number 12 of our 60-lap event out here tonight. Cody, I think everybody kind of dipped their toes in the water of what to expect for the next 48 laps out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to see if anything changes going into this next part of stage 1 here. One thing I will say is now we've got Amanda Sherman caught up with everyone and in the pack, so we'll have to keep an eye on that 88 truck as well, as I'm sure she's not going to be very content to just keep riding around back there. I know one thing I've learned racing with Amanda at these plate tracks is that if there is a gap for her to make her way through the pack and get up there in the draft, she will. And if there's a roadblock of 3x3 trucks deep, she's probably going to go the opposite way and not have anything of it. So we'll see which with the 2 it ends up being. We'll see if we end up 3 wide or if we have some 2 really long lines to kind of battle it out to the end of the stage right here. Corey Sherman's going to lead us back to the green alongside the 1 of Cody Gibson as the pace car pulls off.
Pace car down and away for the first restart of the night. Corey Sherman does elect to take the top side here. Got to wait all the way till you get down here to get into the Geico restart zone. And here we go. Green flag back out. Once again, everybody hits those gears. 4 gears strong. Cody Gibson gets a really good jump on Corey Sherman down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be curious to see if that jump was well timed, or if Corey had an issue, and if we'll have any kind of black flag situation from that happening. But you can see the 16 of Matthew Semple trying to hold on to the 1 of Gibson, but up on the top line, the 00 here of Brad Holmes is just single-handedly pushing the 2 of them ahead of everyone else on that low line. That is pretty impressive to see as we jump on board here behind the boop on the 3's rear bumper. Gonna try and continue to boop it, but it looks like as the pack forms up behind, this is going to turn into a dogfight.
The dogfight 2x2x2x2, and then maybe by 2x3 as we come out of turn number 4. Cody Gibson, Corey Sherman, Matt Semple, Brad Holmes. Drivers look like they just took the green flag a lap ago. Or like a 180 mile an hour pace lap.
Oh yeah, we see the 61 jump up to that 3rd lane ahead of Greg Mitchell. That's not the first time Greg Mitchell's had somebody jump in front of him on that 3rd lane, probably getting a little tired of it. But Greg Mitchell's got that 8 truck of Gary Bowman we talked about in the pre-race lined up with him. Now that'll be an interesting tandem to watch right here. I wonder if they'll have a lot of chemistry as drafting partners here, or if it's just a little bit of a coincidence right now as we see the 61 get lined up with the 3 and the 1. We are 3 trucks about the entire field deep.
Leroy Koblenz trying to lead the outside line. Now Cody Gibson jumps up lane 2, lane 3 as he blocks the run coming from lane 3 from the push from Leroy Koblenz. That's what we're going to be seeing as this race begins to wind down. Maybe Cody just testing the waters, seeing what you can get away with. I think that was probably a little bit closer than I think Leroy was comfortable with. But you know, you learn now for when it matters the most at the end.
Absolutely. I know I would have been a little anxious about that move if I was the 61 and had that move thrown on me. I think what we had seen there was Gibson wanted to get in front of Sherman, and the block just wasn't timed quite right and didn't want to cause a wreck right there, so just kind of slid up to that third line instead of holding on to that second. And now we see up front a little bit more Dyson as Cody Gibson dives down to the bottom. Looks like we had a little smoke, maybe a tiny bit of contact. Gary Bowman checking up in the middle lane. That's going to break everything up just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of movement in the back of the pack. That's going to break up the top 8, 9, 10 cars. Everybody's still together, but as we see 4 wide almost coming through with Dustin Ping, Eric Anderson as they come through the trioval here. I think Dustin gets out of that and maybe thinks a little bit better of it here on lap number 15.
Yep, there's still a long way to go. We are coming to the end of stage 1, but of course, not being a points race, the stage isn't going to pay out any championship points. It's going to be all about track position for the start of stage 2, and technically also for the start of the final stages. We don't have a stage 2 caution, so something that these drivers might be keeping in mind. Oh, the 16 goes around, and we've got a lot of cars involved. We've got Larry Bell in the 05 getting a little airborne. Dustin Ping, we were just talking about, involved as well. The 87, some big damage right there for Clay Sampson. And yeah, we've got about 6, 7, 8 cars involved. We're gonna need to take a look at this one.
Yeah, that was a huge wreck, as the that is the designation of the stage, so that does proverbially end the stage here. We're gonna need to figure out how we can back that up a little bit, but yeah, the 87 involved, the 60 involved, the 05 involved. Ed Jurgen, let's right on board with Ed Jurgen and see if Ed gets anything. Hold on, we'll take a look and see if Ed sees anything from his nose from this one. This ought to be a fun ride. That's not Ed.
That is not.
That's not Ed either. Well, Cody, you know, they say you got to be nice to the broadcasters because we're trying our best.
That's
out
right.
Here.
we got some talking to do with the camera department in the back room, so we'll get that figured out. We'll get that figured out. They know. They're hanging their heads in shame back there. We'll get it worked on. We'll get it better. I think what that looked like, like obviously we missed the exact start of it, but I think that's just going to be a product of coming to the end of a stage when you've got 3 trucks, 3 by 3 for, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows deep. That's just going to be one of those racing deals where all it takes is a little bit of a checkup from somebody. Maybe somebody else does a bad push, a wrong push at a wrong time. Maybe you just get 2 or 3 trucks pushing each other in the same line at the same time, and that's enough to bobble one of them out of line and into somebody else. So it's really easy to happen, especially at these drafting tracks right here. And one thing that we saw earlier with the 41 of Andy Cork is that for everyone involved right there, they have the ability to take a fast repair if that damage is bad enough. For this race tonight, as it's not a points race, we want everyone on track to be there and get as much track time as they can, because next week is going to be where all of the points are given out and where the playoff grid is set.
Leroy Koblenz currently leads the field here. Leroy did not pit. Leroy is yet to complete a pit stop out here tonight, so it's going to be an interesting. We'll see how that works for them.
That is pretty interesting. I think there are kind of 2 sides to this. I think we see Greg Mitchell, the 55, leading everyone off pit road there, the 1, the 00, and everyone on back. I think with everyone who just pit, they're thinking, okay, the stage break is coming up. If I just go ahead and take my tires and fuel now, I don't have to worry about it at this next caution. I can keep the track position, cycle out to the front. I'm surprised more people didn't stay out like Leroy in the 61, because I think the other side of that is that we have a very long run at the end of stage, or at the beginning of stage 2, I should say, where we don't have another guaranteed caution. Now, it is a drafty track. Cautions are very likely. They happen all the time, but you can't base your entire race off of that, at least not if you want to play the odds as they were, right? So the 61 is going to have the opportunity to come down at the end of the stage. I would assume maybe half of the trucks will come down and top off their fuel just in case. But the guys up front, the 55, the 1, the 00, I'd be surprised to see them pit again at the stage. I think they just wanted the track position more than anything.
Well, Cody, remember we hit our stage designation, so there is not going to be a stage yellow at lap number 20. Is now I think Leroy Koblenz realizes that.
Yep.
And he makes his way down onto pit road because now everybody realizes there's not a guaranteed caution coming here in lap number 3, or in 3 laps.
That's right, and we even see the 3 and the 16 pull down. That's surely just going to be to top off that fuel, make sure they have every little bit they can, so that they don't have to worry about saving the rest of the way. They have as much leeway to work with different pit cycles and strategies and windows and all of that, should this go green the rest of the way. One person I'm keeping an eye on here, Tom, in row 2, going to be restarting in 4th place is at 23. That's Sprite Silver and black truck of Chris Rose, who is always up there in the conversation at these drafting tracks. Somebody who feels pretty confident here, kind of like an Amanda Sherman. And out here tonight is definitely going to want to show what he's got, mix it up with the leaders, and try and get some TV time.
Yeah, Chris Rose. One of a strong contender up here. Chris has really picked it up the past couple of weeks. Finished. He's really run better than he's finished. Got caught up in a couple of wrecks. Got caught up in an event at Michigan. Think he got caught up in something at Chicagoland as well. Our past 2 races on the Tuesday Night Thunder Championship Series that he competes in. But the 23 really starting to pick up the pace here as we approach the playoffs beginning in just 2 weeks.
He's choosing a good time to do so, and hopefully he can start to avoid some of those incidents. It just kind of happens. I feel like every driver has been there at various points throughout their careers and various seasons and leagues and what have you. There's just those times where trouble seems to find you no matter what you do. And so I think having gone through it the past couple of weeks, I think he's pretty close to getting out of it. And the speed that he's been showing is always a good sign. Chris is one of those drivers who's always improving, and I think season by season he's going to be taking those steps up in the standings and competing more and more towards the front.
Well, the pace car is off. All drivers have been informed. Maybe a little bit of confusion over not having a caution here on lap number 20. Had to clear up a couple of things. Race control did, but pace car is down and away. We begin stage number 2.
Into the restart zone we go. Greg Mitchell in a 55 is going to hammer down and lead the field back up to speed. One thing we see is neither line is particularly formed up. Everyone got really spaced out on this restart right here. It's going to be really interesting to see if we start to see a couple different packs form, if we see everyone spread out too bad, or if everyone's able to kind of bunch themselves up, because some of those gaps between some of the front bumpers and rear bumpers are a little bit more than I would like, especially if I'm somebody like the 3 to the 16 who just topped off on the last caution lap they could and lost all that track position.
Sometimes you'll see that, Cody, if the leader goes a little bit earlier than expected, right? And I think Greg doing that, it allows the field to be broken up a little bit here. Maybe induce some green flag racing as we begin lap number 20 here in just a moment. But Greg Mitchell getting a big push from Brad Holmes down on the bottom. Chris Letts in the 65 machine currently running in 3rd, make it 4th, maybe make it 5th here. But good run for the 65 so far tonight. Quiet driver that we never really see from is Chris Letts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris Letts is one of those drivers who is always on the quieter side in terms of how he drives, and all of a sudden you'll just look up and you'll see Chris Letts in the conversation, and you kind of wonder, you know, how it happened or how we got here or what have you. But I think especially these drafting tracks, I think that 65 has a little knowledge on how to work this draft and kind of get up towards the front and at least get into the picture, into the conversation, to have a say as to how things play out.
Well, you want to know one driver that's not quiet right now is Chris Rose. Chris Rose just made a hole in the middle and decided, hey, this track's 5 lanes wide. We can go 3 wide. So Chris Rose trying to make his way through and trying to get a push from Gary Bowman there.
Yeah, we've got a yellow flag has come out. I was going to say Chris Rose and quiet. I don't think they go in the same sentence. He's probably
they do not.
the most the bravest. I guess I'll say the bravest driver we have here in Cyber Thunder. So you can always keep an eye on the 23 for something like that. But we've got a yellow that's going to bring the field to a halt here early on in stage number 2 as we wait to see what brought out the yellow here.
So the stage was actually thrown by the by our sequencer. So our stages are thrown automatically. I thought we had removed everything, but it did not appear to be the case. So these drivers are slowed again for a caution that they were not expecting. So maybe good for some, maybe bad for some.
Yep, gotta be prepared for every outcome. And it looks like everyone's gonna have to come to a crawl right here and wait for the pace car to pass them by. I think that's why we're seeing everyone going so slow. Some of them are gonna start going slow enough that they start sliding off of the banking right there. Here comes the pace car through everyone. Transparent car, of course, can't actually make contact with them as it'll pick up Greg Mitchell and the rest of the field. We were just talking about, Chris, that's the 65 right there, and all the way up to second place. That's going to be really interesting. Going to restart on the front row once we go through all of this, assuming, of course, that we don't see some pit stops up toward the front.
Couple of takers on this unexpected caution down here. Chris Rose, Rick Thompson, Gary Bowman, Eric, Ed Jurgen. Four cars and more make their way down pit road here. Actually, almost everybody. There's only going to be, it's going to look like there's going to be 6 cars that stay out. It looks like Amanda Sherman is going to be the last car that stays out on the actual racing surface, but everybody else takes advantage of this caution here.
Yeah, I think for the majority of the field, they see a free opportunity to get some fuel, and, under caution, at a drafting track, it'll always be considered free, more or less. Obviously, it's not that simple, but green flag pit stops are just so risky, and if you can pack that thing full of fuel under caution, especially if there's enough time left in the race for there to be a green flag stop or two, you're going to more than likely take that opportunity just to give yourself the largest window possible, the longest you can go, so that, if another caution comes out on the tail end of that, you can catch that instead of pitting under green. I think what we saw from the 88, Amanda Sherman staying out right here, that's going to be a good call in her shoes, as she was kind of stuck back in the pack from that early trouble with the VR setup, almost going a lap down early in the race, being stuck outside of the pack, finally getting caught back up, but couldn't seem to make any moves up through the pack. So I guess she decided that she's going to do it with some strategy, get some track position, and see what we could do from here.
Well, Cody, these guys have another lap here, so why don't we see if we can grab somebody real quick and kind of see how their race is going. Why don't we grab Leroy Koblenz? Leroy was showing some speed up here earlier.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's pull Leroy Koblenz up here. Leroy, Tom, and Cody up here. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Well, we're doing good. We watched you slice and dice your way up to the field, even sniffed the lead there a couple of times. How's your race going?
Well, yeah, it was a lot of fun going up through there, but once I got to the bottom on the front, I lost all my friends. They wouldn't push me up to the lead.
That'll happen here, Leroy. But you know what they say, race car drivers have a long memory, and I'm sure you'll remember that for next week.
Yep. Yeah, Eric said I got to earn the respect out here, so I guess that's what I'll do tonight.
Well, Leroy, we're going to run to lap number 45. No caution at lap number 45. What do we think we're going to be able to see the 61 machine try to do to finish out this race and maybe get his way up into victory lane at the end?
I guess I'll just see how the race unfolds as far as cautions and try to pit at the right time to be there at the end.
Planning on taking out your competition in front of you there. We're watching you. I
may have to.
Well, Leroy, good luck here on the one to go here, and hopefully we get to chat with you later.
All righty. Thanks, man.
Well, Tom, I tell you one thing. The thing that stuck with me from interviewing there with Leroy Koblenz in the 61 is that you mentioned I've got to go out there and I've got to earn the respect of the other drivers to have people work with them. And one thing I was thinking was not that long ago, just a little bit earlier, we saw that 61 dicing up towards the front, and I think that's the best way to do it. I was sitting here thinking, like, I haven't seen the 61 really do that since he's been here, so we've seen him get a podium finish through some fuel strategy back at Iowa, I think it was, and he's got a good opportunity here. It seems like he really knows how to do these drafting races, and if he can get back up there some more, I think he's going to put some people on notice tonight.
I think so, and Leroy's been around here forever, longtime member of the Cyber Thunder Racing League and well respected. Does have one Cyber Thunder Racing League win, and it was where else? Talladega, Cody.
Oh well, would you look at that? Guess it all adds up. I think one thing I'll be really curious to see, having been behind the wheel for a good number of these races, especially the drafting races with people like Corey and Amanda Sherman. One thing that's of note is that Amanda Sherman says that her favorite drafting partner at these drafting tracks, outside of like the teammates she races with, is Rick Thompson in the 76 because she trusts Rick more than any other driver when it comes to pushing or being pushed. So now they are lined up. They're the third and fourth car on that outside line right there. It'll be really interesting because I don't think they'll be split up. I think they're probably going to be sticking together here.
Well, we're going to see who your friends are and who you're willing to trade. As Barney's got the green flag up in his hand, waiting to wave it underneath the guidance of Greg Mitchell and Chris Lutz here. And there he goes. Green flag back at everybody up through the loud pedal.
Looks like this time the field is a lot less spread out as Greg Mitchell and the 00 of Brad Holmes are both clear into turn one. Brad Holmes might be looking to the outside. Yes, he's going to try and get a little bit of a side draft and take over while Greg does not have any help. He's got to wait for the 43 of Eric Anderson to pull in line there. Looks like the 00 is going to clear and we might have 3 lines.
Might have 3 lines running here as we take a look from the side here. See Cody Gibson has little help behind him. He's got Amanda Sherman pushing him. Brad Holmes now drops down to lane 1, and now that leaves Chris Lutz as the lead machine in lane number 2 with some help from Rick Thompson behind him.
Yeah, Rick going out there and disproving my theory before the restart right here. But look at Greg Mitchell with a crazy move up to the front. That block just barely worked, but Greg's going to get shuffled up to the third lane as Chris Lutz in the 65 is going to take that opening in the middle, get a push from Rick and lead on this lap right here. We are already 3x3 for about 5 rows deep.
How about Chris Lutz up there leading the field? I mean, Chris also been around here. We talk about drivers looking for their first win. Talladega is a place of first wins, first heartbreaks. Chris Lutz doesn't yet have a win in Cyber Thunder Racing League, but has been around here for I think like 280 something races out here. If Chris Lutz wins, it's going to be a party.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though it's not, I think even though it's a non-points event, I think if we see someone like Chris Lutz win, I think that race is just going to secretly slip into the record book right there, just for the sake of it. As we see a very interesting block thrown by the 00 on the high line there in front of Greg Mitchell. He gets into the wall again. Something going on with the 00s. We're going to go 4 wide. Cody Gibson had enough of that. He says, get me out of here. I do not want to follow that 00. And oh, Amanda Sherman into Greg Mitchell, both into the wall. They're going to keep it going straight. Everyone is dicing back and forth, left and right, inside out. This is a crazy race, Tom.
Yeah, those are the kind of moves that drivers are going to remember for next week, right? If I'm Greg Mitchell, I just wrote that down in a notebook while I was racing. I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to remember that for next race. It shuffled Brad Holmes to the middle of the pack here, as now we see Andrew Popejoy being pushed by Eric Anderson, Cody Gibson, and Dustin Ping trying to work lane 3.
Yeah, and I thought we saw something really interesting right there, and that Chris Rose kind of faked out Popejoy. Popejoy took that line thinking he was getting help from the 23. The 23 thought about it, ducked back behind the 76. He wanted to stay on that bottom, or he just wanted to stay behind the 76. But Chris Rose definitely picking his battles right now. It's interesting to kind of see the driver's thought process with the different moves that are going on, whether they're attacking, whether they're defending, which line they want to be in, and when they choose to take their battles.
Big battles all over the speedway as everybody looks to make their way around, working lap number 27 of 60 out here tonight. Dustin Ping with a great push on Cody Gibson on lane 3. Now Dustin says, hey, I'm just going to jump down into lane number 2, and that's going to leave the 3 and the 1 on lane number 3. But down at the bottom is where it's all at. Rick Thompson with a maybe a 2, maybe a 3 truck lead as they exit 4.
That bottom line got a little bit of an advantage right there with Dustin diving in the middle. That breaks up that high line just a little bit, and it slows that middle line just a little bit because they've got to kind of get that momentum formed back up. So that bottom line, they were able to pull about 2 cars clear. They seem to be the most consistently well-formed line, which is difficult to do at a drafting track here on the sim. That bottom line, it's very easy for it to be formed pretty well, but not really have the speed because everyone has to check up for the person in front of them a lot more than if you're in the middle line or on the high line, where you're kind of foot to the floor a lot more. And so I think this bottom line is doing a pretty good job of keeping everything together. Oh, we've got contact in. That's going to be Dustin Ping, Corey Sherman, the 15, the 4. We've got a lot of people involved.
A lot of people involved. Corey Sherman involved, Dustin Ping involved, Matt Semple involved. Looks like maybe Andy Cork involved. Andy already used his 1 fast repair.
Oh, just a little extra for
more drivers involved. Wow. We'll see if we can take a decent look at that. But I think that started, Cody, from another one of those blocks.
Yeah, it seemed like we were getting a lot of really dicey blocks, a lot of last-second moves. I think we're definitely leaning on the side of people are definitely trying to see what they can get away with this week rather than kind of thinking more strategy-based. I think people are testing out some moves, seeing how aggressive they can be, and seeing how everyone around them reacts.
All right, let's see if we can take a look and see exactly what happens here. Yeah, we're coming into that a little bit late, but yeah, issues for a lot of drivers here on lap number 27 of 60.
We're getting a real bugged out view of Larry Bell. There we go.
Yeah,
Fix
I
it
think
up.
Larry gets high-sided here, and
Oh
then
yeah,
he's like, well, the only way to go is down, but is
I
there
think
anything behind me?
I think the broadcast isn't seeing the same thing. I think we got to talk to the camera truck again, see what's going on with those guys. There we go. Jump to a shot of Tanner here, pacing around. Apologies for the jumpy camera work there on stream. That's something we'll have to get figured out.
Well, you know, they give they'll let anybody up here and press the buttons, so.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. It's a low budget affair, but you know. It looks like we've actually got most of the field pitting again and a handful of people staying out. Seems like we've got Chris Rose, we've got the 77 of Nicholas Popejoy, and Leroy Koblenz in the 61. Who's gonna stay out? Everybody else going to come in and take some fuel, grab some tires as well, depending.
Yeah, so Chris Rose, Nick Popejoy, Leroy Koblenz, your top three. They stayed out, and then everything from 4th to 25th on behind them, they all came in. They said, you know, I either want to get damage fixed, which there was a bunch that did need to get damage fixed, or they wanted to get some tires and fuel. Because, you know, like you were saying earlier, the less fuel you can take down there at the end of the race, the less time you spend on pit road. So take the fuel under caution. It hurts you a whole lot less.
Absolutely, and I think we're just outside of the window of being able to save enough to get to the finish line. Our fuel window is about 21 to 24 laps, but if you just pit just now and you're kind of getting real close on making it, I think you're starting to think about, if we get green flag pit stops, all you need is a very short splash of fuel to be able to make it to the end. You take some tires under caution here, you don't have to worry about them under green, and you're going to have a chance to have a pit stop that's much shorter than those who stayed out. Now, if you came down pit road, unfortunately, most of the field did, so they'll all be in the same boat. But if you're one of these three up front, you are going to be hoping for another caution before too long right here, ideally within the window to make it to the finish line so that they can hold on to that track position, as you would expect everybody to come down at that point.
Cody, as the lights are still on the iRacing.com pace car. One of the cool things that we got this season for our upcoming broadcast is we're taking a look inside the driver's point of view. We've got two drivers out here tonight. We've got Eric Anderson. Eric Anderson is giving a look into his point of view out here as we take a look. That's a pretty fancy looking rig that he's got sitting up there.
That is. Eric Anderson's got more buttons than I can count to decide right there, and he's, of course, got his 43 logos going everywhere. That'd be a pretty cool rig to sit in.
He told us on Thunderstruck, the official Cyber Thunder Racing League podcast, that he hand built that, and I think he like coded and did everything himself in there. So really cool setup that he's got, but it's a lot different than the other driver who's in our camera room. The other driver that we've got in our camera room has a motion rig, and we've got Corey Sherman also showing off his rig as well.
Yep, and anyone who's raced with Corey Sherman knows about the rig that Corey Sherman races in, as no expenses were spared for it. He's got the whole deal going on, got the motion rig, got the
He's even got a cup holder there. How
yeah,
about
even got a cup holder. He's got just about everything he's strapped into there. So be real interesting if we catch a wreck where Corey Sherman gets all twisted upside down and everything. If we're watching that onboard camera, that probably looked pretty wild.
So there was one time, going a little off topic here, there was one time that I was behind him, I think it was here at Daytona, and I was getting ready to boop him, as he would call it, and he said, "Don't hit me, I don't have my seatbelts on." And that's a very real thing, because I mean the motion rig starts throwing you around, you'll fall right out. So the seatbelts, while they may seem a little bit much, they're definitely needed for something like a motion rig.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the VR as well. I intend to get the VR that he uses. And I just recently started a VR myself when I'm behind the wheel, and it definitely changes the game. I can only imagine once you start getting the feelings of what the car is doing, feeling a little bit of the G-forces and the bumps and everything, and more than just your hands. It's got to be quite the experience, and probably something that takes a while to get used to. But he's been running like that for as long as I've known him, so he's about as used to it as you can get.
And you can see him bouncing around there in a little bit as they come off the banking onto the flat of the front stretch here. But fun little look that we have on the in-car camera as we get set back to go for green flag racing on lap number what will be 32.
All right, Chris Rose and that silver 23 truck going to lead us to the green right here. Getting pushed by the 61. That is a good push on the restart, and the two of them are going to clear the 77 of Popejoy on the outside.
Looked like maybe a little bit, maybe just the tiniest of bits of a laggy restart there by the 23. You saw Leroy get to him. Maybe he was waiting to see the 61, see that 0x contact that on iRacing, it delivers you a message when somebody's hitting you. On a restart, if you've got somebody right up on your bumper and you get that message right there, that's what Chris Rose was looking for on the restart. Try to get as big of a run and a big of a lead entering turn number 1 as Brad Holmes now takes a look up on the outside. Nicholas Popejoy, not a whole lot of friends in the middle of the track there.
No, he made quite the move to try and get to the lead, taking all the momentum he had, but Brad Holmes was having none of that, and I think that's something we've seen a lot of tonight, is that Brad Holmes in that 00 is not looking to make friends. Brad Holmes is looking to win a race, as Leroy in the 61 jumps out the sole car in that middle lane. A pretty brave decision, going to try and hold on there with the side draft and wait for the one of Cody Gibson to push up to the back with help from Amanda Sherman in the 88.
It's so inviting, Cody, when you're behind somebody and you're like, I got the run. If I just go now, I got the run. And then you get out there and I don't have the run anymore. I think that might have been a little bit what happened to Leroy Koblenz right there. But now he's starting to move a little bit forward as the top line starts to fall apart. He's got some help coming from Cody Gibson, like you were mentioning a moment ago, as they enter down into turn number 3. I think the bottom line is probably hooked up. Don't count out that number 20. Machine,
I was just
Cody.
thinking
For
of Tom.
first time we were going to say his name all night. Mike Stiverson has a knack for finding his way up towards the front every single week.
Yeah, that he does. That's another one of the quiet drivers who's not really going to get there in a super flashy manner, but you can count on that 20. Mike Stiverson, he's a smart driver. He knows what to do. He knows how to manage a race, and he's putting himself in position here on lap number 34 out of 60, a little past halfway, just trying to be in the picture for the rest of the race here and have a shot come the end. See what he can do, see who he can work with up here. Getting a little help from the 61 now in that middle lane, as that third line's kind of dissipated a little bit, but it's going to try and make a run. We've got Cody Gibson in the 1, being pushed by Amanda Sherman and Matthew Semple. Now, all 3 of those guys are more or less teammates. We've even got Corey Sherman now, the 4th car in line. All 4 of those drivers race in the same call, so they will be on the same page. They'll be trying to work together to make this high line happen.
That's a good point, Cody, and I don't think we've really touched on it out here tonight. Teammates are a factor, but you're also kind of limited as we see Chris Rose slide up just a hair. You're also kind of limited as to who your teammates are, because we just saw Leroy Koblenz leave his buddy Eric Anderson there to take the lead here on lap number 35. So, I mean, whoa, big look
Leroy,
there is.
Yeah, not clear. Not clear. Leroy's going to get in the one. Oh, that is going to end up bringing out the caution. It was a little delayed. All the contact. Oh, Andy Cork getting involved again for a 3rd time tonight. It looks like Corey Sherman, Andy Cork, and maybe Matthew Semple of 16 probably got the worst of that from what I've seen.
Yeah, let's take a look and see. Every replay that we do, I change a different setting to see if it fixed it, and we'll see if this one fixed it. But yeah, it looked like another one of those, Cody, and I feel like this has brought out almost every single wreck that we've seen tonight. Another bad block out by the front line here. So take a look and see. Yeah, we're coming in a little bit late, but Andy Cork, just minding his own business, nowhere to go.
Yeah. Absolutely wrong place, wrong time, and I feel bad for Andy because I feel like that's the name of the game for much of the season for that 41 truck, especially this season, is just wrong place, wrong time, just kind of getting collected in stuff that he had no say in doing or causing, but how it goes sometimes, I suppose.
That is how she goes sometimes. Andy Cork makes his way down onto pit road. Andy Cork already has used his one fast repair, so any damage that he gets done here will have to be done on time. Drivers that have used the fast repair out here tonight, Brad Holmes, our current leader, has used the fast repair. Mike Stiverson, Ed Jurgen, Angel Vasquez, Tanner Marr, Casey Tomlinson, Larry Bell, Clay Sampson. So about half the field has already used their fast repair.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting as we go into this final part of the race. I think those who still have a fast repair, right about now, with 25 laps to go, we're past halfway. Those people who are especially in the top half of the field, they're going to be thinking, all right, I've saved my one fast repair. It's the second half of the race. It's go time. I'm either going to put myself in position up at the front, or I'm going to have to use that fast repair. But we're going to see the entire field dive down to pit road right here because we are officially on the very edge of our fuel window to make it to the end. From here, it will require just a little bit of saving, but we'll see what everyone can manage.
See everybody come down here. We might see a little bit of strategy calls out here. Maybe some drivers just take fuel only. See if some drivers decide to take 4 tires and say, "Hey, this is the last time I'm coming on pit road." But we're gonna watch the race off of pit road and see who comes out.
I think we're seeing some fuel-only stops. Mike Stiverson was in the pit box for 5.63 seconds. That was the fastest time by a good little margin. Brad Holmes, 6.23. Chris Rose, 6.92. I think we saw some fuel-only for sure. I think people took their tires at that last yellow, and they figured they're good for the rest of the way. Because one thing we got to keep in mind at these drafting tracks is, especially in only a 60-lap race, those tires aren't really going to come into play as much as they would normally, especially if you're not sliding around, not being involved in some of the incidents. So you'll see with Mike Stiverson in the 20, probably all the way back to Gary Bowman in the 8, and maybe even a further back still. A lot of fuel only. People are no longer worried about their tires. They just want to have that track position and have the fuel.
That they do here is we still see the lights on the iRacing.com pace car. Checking out into our YouTube chat box. How you guys doing? How you guys feeling? See Carter Lawson checking in. Carter, who you got? I think I know who you're going to pick, but throw it out there anyway. How we doing? How we sounding? Anything that needs to be adjusted, let us know. We'll adjust it on the fly and get it right before the end. So fun little race here on a Tuesday night. Again, our debut for the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network with myself and Cody Heinzman up here for a non-points event where our regular season ends next week.
Absolutely. And one thing I like that Carter Lawson put in the chat was that the 43 causes chaos no matter where he is. And, well, if you look at that 43 truck, Eric Anderson, he is running in 4th position. He's up towards the front and about the right time of the race. So we'll see what kind of chaos that 43 truck can amass tonight.
So, Cody, maybe a little bit early to talk about this, but we do have 3 green-white checkers out here tonight. So drivers also not have to remember, and maybe that's why we're seeing Mike Stiverson come down pit road here. But 3 green-white checkers out here. Where do you want to be in 3 to go, 2 to go, 1 to go?
Well, Tom, it's a great question, and we're going to see the 20, the 8, the 92, and a couple drivers further back. They're going to top off because we're at the edge of the fuel window. This is going to mean they have to save that little bit less than everyone else, which, honestly, if I'm behind the wheel, I'd give up the lead, same as the 20 of Mike Stiverson did. I don't care how much track position it is. If it's that close on fuel, give me the fuel. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, 5 laps ago, 4 laps ago, 3 laps ago, I've always wanted to be the driver who is in the lead or pushing the leader, but I don't want to be anywhere else in the race. And more often than not, if I'm putting myself in the right position, I end up being the leader. Now, a lot of times, it's kind of a 50-50, right? Whether you're the pusher or whether you're the leader up towards the front of the field is the laps kind of wind down, because if you're the leader, you are at the mercy of everyone behind you, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because that means everyone behind you has to make the moves, and a lot of times, especially on the sim, those moves result in incidents, result in wrecks, result in crashes, whatever it might be, and you're the car that's leading the field. You're most likely going to get out of that bad deal. However, if you're the car behind, if you're the pusher, if you have to make the move, you are in the riskier position. You have to make the right move. You have to hope the people that you're making the move around are going to go along with what you're trying to make happen. Hope you have a push from behind, because you could be the second car in line. You could pull out from the leader, and third place just pushes the leader or takes you three wide. So if you ask me, I probably want to be in the lead. That's the approach I've always taken. Now, it didn't work for me in the Cyber 500. Ed Jurgen came out of nowhere and stormed past me coming to the line. But hey, at least I was in the picture, in the position. I think that's all I can ask for.
Well, I mean, you can flip that side of the coin there, Cody, and you can say that you want to be the one to make the move, not have to you want to play offense, not defense. And I think as a race car driver, everybody is used to just playing offense. Playing defense is where you kind of have to switch a mentality and run out of your mirror on the last lap. So if I am in the running for a win, I want to be in second or third on the last lap. But that's just everybody's preference up there as we see the pace car down and away, and we're about ready to go once again.
Absolutely. Looks like the 00 of Brad Holmes is going to lead us to the start. He's get a couple cars blinking out right there on the restart. Looks like Chris Rose in the 23 going to keep up really well on that start. That high line is pretty well formed, but Matt Semple in the 16 going to go ahead and dive down to the bottom, take that gap, go ahead and close in right there. That high line is very, very fragile on these restarts. All it takes is one car pulling out of line, and that bottom line has the momentum, especially getting up to speed, where you don't have to check up for any kind of momentum or any kind of runs. You are just foot to the floor. That bottom line usually has an advantage, and what we see from Matt Semple right here is quickly shooting all the way up to second place by turn 3 from the restart there. That's pretty impressive.
Cody, real quick, let's shout this driver out here. Fred Thompson running up inside the top 10 right now. We haven't said Fred's name all night. Running up inside the top 10. We haven't seen Fred, I don't think, in a single incident out here tonight. Truck looks clean. Driving to the front. Fred Thompson currently in contention to be there at the end.
Oh, absolutely. Very quiet race from Fred Thompson. Keeping the truck clean, just riding, getting the laps down, staying out of trouble, and well, would you look at that? He finds himself in a pretty good position, coming down to 21 laps to go right here. As we see the 65 of Chris Letts be abandoned on that top side. Going to go back a little bit further. Looks like the back half of the pack is a little spread out. We've got the Ford truck of Tanner Marr up towards the front. That's a name we haven't said all too much tonight. Somebody new into the picture right here at the right time, and that 16 and that 00, those two are buddies even off of the track, so I would be surprised to see those two do anything to hinder each other's races, as the 43 of Eric Anderson is going to push Cody Gibson on the high side to a nose out front.
Yes, they are, and we see Eric Anderson pushing Cody Gibson out up to the outside line. Matt Semple and Brad Holmes, like you said, teammates both on track and off track, so we'll see how long the 16 and the 00 decide to work together, but really locked up on the top lane right there between the 43 and the 1. I think the top lane is a little bit closer and tighter right now.
Yeah, and one thing I like to see, personally, if I'm on track, I'm usually going to be in the high line just because it gives you a little bit more wiggle room. You have some more opportunities and some more choices. But if that bottom line is to be doing a good job at keeping that high side from getting the advantage, these drivers have to stay close enough, but not too close. On those higher lines, you're going to see a lot of pushes that are really, really tight pushes. And on the bottom, I think the best thing you can see is second place pushing the leader as much as their temperatures can handle it, and then a very even gap between second and third place, third and fourth place, fourth and fifth place on that bottom line. Keeping those gaps consistent, not pushing up too far, not falling too far back, because it's that consistency that will keep that momentum up on the bottom line when it's so easy to just accordion from the checkups, from pushes and checkups and all of the kinds of things that you can see, while those higher lines have the ability of staying full throttle more. They can push harder, they can receive pushes, they can stay in the gas more often, and that's why we see those high lines do so good.
We saw the high line of the 87. He was the first and only one to step out before he had Ed Jorgen jump up there and help him out a little bit. But Clay Sampson trying to make his way through. Had the opportunity to get down behind the 52 if Casey Tomlinson decides to stay out there on lane number 3. And we'll see if Ed and the 92 and the 87 are able to continue to work their way up there. They're making headway.
Yeah, and we see the 77 right there making a move that was almost bad. That's Nicholas Popejoy in the bright green M&M's truck. That's somebody who we've seen be aggressive all night long. Almost took it 4 wide there, almost got into the quarter panel of the 43, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that bright green M&M's truck to see if these moves hold or if it's going to end up causing an incident. But one name that we have not been talking about too much tonight is that 87 of Clay Sampson leading that top line with Ed Jurgen pushing behind. Ed Jurgen's got teammate Gary Bowman in the 8, and the 61 of Leroy. Leroy just won't go away tonight. He's up there lurking as well as Cody Gibson tries to lead that middle line, and Brad Holmes and the 16 of Matt Semple still holding strong on the bottom.
3 wide as they come through the tri-oval to work lap number 43 to begin lap number 44. As the field begins to wind down here, everybody, you start to think, right? Does everybody have enough fuel? They last pitted, most of the field last pitted on lap number 36. We heard before 21 to 24 laps on fuel. 60 laps, so somebody do the math for me, break me out an abacus. Everybody's going to kind of be sitting right on that that window.
That's right. We're going to see some people probably have to pit. If we're going green to the end, they might just decide to run it out. There's no points on the line, so they might just try and see if they can get everything they can. One truck that I do want to point out right now as we run is Greg Mitchell in the 55, and I'll even throw Mike Stuyvesant in the 20. They are running at the very back of this pack on that low line, and what they're doing right now is kind of twofold. They're waiting to see if everyone else is going to end up piling into each other in the big one, and secondarily, they are saving fuel. Running on that bottom line behind the momentum and the air that's being cleared out by the pack, these guys are running probably about half throttle. They are saving as much fuel as they can so that in 10 laps to go, 5 laps to go, they don't have to think about fuel while they push their way up through the field, through the draft, try to get to the front. They can just go, 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 and everyone else is still watching their fuel.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, in the draft, you can run almost half throttle and still keep up with the draft, and I think that's what they're doing right now. Mike and Greg, they do work together on a regular basis, and I think they're kind of saying, hey, everybody else go up there, burn up your fuel, and we'll get up there when some of you have to pit and break up the pack a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing I'm noticing right here is back to the 77 here of Nicholas Popejoy, pushing that 43 of Eric Anderson. Eric is, from what I've seen, he doesn't want to get up to the back of the 1 of Cody Gibson because of the aggression of the pushes that we're getting from the 77. As the 77 blinks
we're gonna
out,
have an issue here.
Yeah, reappears. Luckily, that
was
wasn't
a really good job by Larry Bell there.
That was a very veteran heads-up move from Larry Bell to realize that the car had blinked out and was coming back and avoided any further incidents from that happening. As it looked like Eric Anderson didn't want to get to the back of the 1 because of the aggression of the pushes he was getting. Eric knows, he's been around for a while, he knows how to race, he knows the moves to make and not to make, and if he was getting a super aggressive push and he tried to push the 1, that could very easily have wrecked the entire field. So now we see with the 61 behind the 43, he's going to start to take the liberties of pushing the 1, that bright orange and black Cheetos truck, with his bumper now that he feels safer from behind. And that's basically the game that everyone's playing in these lines, is if you are going to be locked to the truck in front of you, you don't want to be pushed from behind. And if you are being pushed from behind, you don't want to lock with the bumper in front of you. That's how you get these accordion effects that cause these big 10-12 truck incidents.
The entire field here, the top 16 cars all within a half second of each other, and we come down here to just over 10 laps to go, 13 laps to go, whatever it may be. And now the intensity starts to pick up, and you start to think of, if one wrong move happens in front of me, I need to put myself in the right line to avoid any sort of issues, right? Give myself the best possible opportunity. Is the wreck going to come up, or is the wreck going to go down? And I think a lot of it depends on where it happens. Whether it's in the corner, it'll go up. In the straightaways, it will likely go down.
That's absolutely correct, and I think if you're on the bottom line, you have all of the track underneath the apron that you can work with to avoid wrecks. And conversely, if you are in the middle 2 lanes, while you don't have that space, you do have more mobility in terms of the lanes having a little bit more power when they're formed together. That middle line and that high line can usually do a lot more than the bottom line can, especially if you're trying to move your position. If you want to try and claw your way up through it, up through the field, you're probably not going to do it on the bottom line alone. Maybe a little bit of mixing it up down there and then into the middle, maybe up top. But in my experience, that middle line or that high line, that's how you're going to get up towards the front. That's how you're really going to change your position on the track. So it's kind of a trade-off. You put yourself up there and you're in the danger zone because you don't have anywhere to go when that wreck does eventually happen.
It's kind of like riding in the middle lane on a highway when you don't really know where you're going, what exit you need, right? You get in the left lane, you get in the right lane, you get back to the middle lane. It gives you a couple of options, but only if there's not cars next to you. If you're Eric Anderson and something happens right now, I hope you got your seatbelts on.
Oh, absolutely. Seatbelts, maybe like Corey's got. Maybe we'll have him hit up Corey Sherman with that setup there. But as we see the 92 of Ed Jurgen pushed by the 8 of Gary Bowman, those two teammates now linked up and leading that top line right there, at least for the moment. They're going to try and get some help from the 77 and the 76 respectively, but I don't see that high line going much anywhere if there's only the 4 trucks up there. Those bottom 2 lines just have too much power, too much momentum, too many trucks behind them. As we see the 87 now of facing out on that one, Clay Sampson, leading this race ahead of who else? The 61 of Leroy, who is still here, still making a name, still pushing to get a good result.
Leroy has been the name all night long, but every time we look, we're like, oh my gosh, Leroy's up there. And then we look again 10 laps later, and we're like, oh my gosh, he's still up there. Leroy's certainly making a name for himself in this practice race out here in preparation for our regular season finale next week. And I mean, if he runs next week like he's doing tonight, I may have to change my pick to the 61 next week.
Yeah, Leroy is definitely making a name for himself as a contender, a good pick going into next week for that final points paying race of the regular season. We'll see how it goes the rest of the race here. Another newer name is the 87 of Clay Sampson, who finds himself in the lead of this race as we hit 10 laps to go. Ed Jurgen still on the high side. Cody Gibson still leading the middle with Eric Anderson right there. And of all of these lines, all of these drivers of what we're seeing, I feel like that 43 and that 1 have been very, very consistent together right here. Obviously, you can't count out Jurgen and Bowman, those two teammates, especially now that they've got some help. That high line is 5, make it almost 6 trucks deep, and they are going to have some momentum.
They've got some momentum as they enter turn number 3. Ed Jurgen pokes the nose of the 92 Chevy Silverado out to the front for the first time out here tonight, being pushed by Gary Bowman in the rear of that tailgate. I think Ed and Gary are probably in the best spot right here, but they're in the same channel. One thing you got to think of, right? None of the other two lines, Clay Sampson and Leroy Koblenz, or Cody Gibson and Eric Anderson, they're not in the same channel, whereas the 92 and the 8 are. So that's going to give them a strategical advantage that Ed can say, hey, I need to back up. Gary can say, hey, I can't get to you, roll out of the gas just a little bit. That's going to allow me to break that air bubble that we see so often. Or Ed or Gary just say, hey, I'm overheating a little bit. I need to back off of you.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great point. And I think one thing that I'm seeing here is I think the 61, Leroy Koblenz, I think he's getting a little antsy. I think if that 61 clears that middle lane, we're going to see somebody else leading either of those 2 other lanes. And I think it's going to be that 61 who just wants to open that window and start controlling one of these lines. As we come down to 8 laps to go here at the line, when you're running 3x3x3x3, it's almost assuredly going to come down to one of the 3 trucks who are leading these lines, unless there's a wreck, unless there's a stack up, unless there's something to break everyone up. You really want to be in control of one of these lines, and at that point, you just want to hope that your line has the right push at the right time, as it looks like all 3 lines have about equal momentum at this point.
Big
there's
stack
contact.
here, Cody.
Oh, and there goes the leader.
Cody
Got the
gets
1 car.
Up and over once, twice. Leroy Koblenz hard into the inside wall. Eric Anderson also caught involved. Matt Semple involved. Some heavy.
Oh, more contact with the 410 or there.
Some heavy hitters caught up in this one, and I think that was what we were kind of bringing up the drama too.
Yeah, we kind of talked that one into existence, I think, Tom.
Well, they say the broadcasters curse.
Yeah, something like that. Well, at least we made it entertaining. Yeah, that 43 truck is hurting. I don't remember, Tom. Has the 43 used his fast repair yet tonight?
Eric Anderson has not used his fast repair, so he does have the benefit of using that.
I'm pretty sure the 16 has by this point, and he's yet again found himself in an incident with some heavy damage. I wonder Oh, as we see Eric unable to get to that truck is
Oh
hurt
my
if he
goodness.
can't not even pull into the pit stop. We should maybe switch to somebody else and save Eric the
That would have been a great time to pull up his driver cam there,
Yeah.
but you see on our information box on the right side of the screen there, 3 green, white, checkers attempts. Don't believe this will be our first one. I believe this will just be a regular restart. 21 to 24 laps on fuel, and the part that I want to take a look at is the why did that just do that? Most of the field last pit on lap number 36 to 37. We'll try to bring that up again and see if that, well,
I tell you what, Tom, talking about the field, one thing I would love to do is get an onboard of Ed Jurgen, some of the leaders up here, Gary Bowman, Brad Holmes. I want to see if we've got some drivers saving under caution right here. How does the fuel look?
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, that truck is absolutely silent for Ed Jurgen, our race leader. Going to be shutting that thing off completely right behind the pace car, just letting it coast.
Take a better
25.
look there where we can see the RPMs. Yeah, these trucks idle, is it 1800 they idle at? 2000?
I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but I know they're not usually this quiet. I'll tell you what, though, I'm surprised to see... oh, here we go, yep. Down all the way to 300, that's just about shutting the whole thing off. At the very least, clutching it. This is Gary Bowman that we're on board with in second place here. Jump back to third with Brad Holmes in the 00.
The trucks do sound awfully quiet, don't they, Cody?
Yeah, they do. You can tell they're quiet when you can start to hear the wind a little bit more than usual.
Than the actual, yeah, than the truck, yeah.
And I
All
think
right,
it's
so
worth mentioning, sorry to step over you, Tom, but I just wanted to point out real quick, 2 names. In 6th and 7th place, Larry Bell in the 05, Amanda Sherman in the 88. 2 drivers who made it through the trouble there, who are now finding themselves in the mix of it, just outside the top 5. Both drivers who have a lot of experience at these plate tracks and will be quietly looking to get up there and really shuffle it up here towards the end of the race. They've kind of kept their noses clean, got themselves in the right spot, avoided the incident when it happened, and they're going to have the ability to really try and make something happen with this restart here.
so let's set the field here, Cody. So the top 10 cars, so from Ed Jurgen down to Andrew Popejoy, those cars stayed on the track here. They did not pit. Mike Stiverson, Chris Lutz, the 65, Chris Rose, Angel Vasquez, and Casey Tomlinson, they decided to come down on this caution. So now there's no second thought about fuel from 11th on down. However, Andrew Popejoy, Fred Thompson, Greg Mitchell, Amanda Sherman, those drivers are still on the same fuel strategy. So they may be in trouble if we do get a couple of green, white checkers out here, whereas Stiverson, Brennan, Rose, Vasquez, those drivers may be okay.
Yeah, that is a fantastic point. I think if I'm Ed Jurgen, if I'm Gary Bowman, if I'm Brad Holmes, I want this race to finish on this restart right here. I want this to be all the way to the end, no more cautions, because their fuel tanks probably can't hold up, and we're going to see if they can even hold up if it runs to the line.
And you can see Ed Jurgen is clutching the machine, right? See him pull ahead up there a little bit. Now he's going to hit the clutch. We just know what he's doing. And now he's going to coast and let the pace car come past him again. Still maintaining pace speed, but he's gassing it up and then coasting it or putting it in neutral and letting the momentum do the work there instead of the fuel.
That is absolutely correct. And as long as the 92 doesn't get too far ahead of the pace car, he is free to do that as long as he doesn't slow down too much. That's a strategy that I use quite frequently when it comes down to fuel saving, and I think it'll be really interesting because it looks like the 92 has been more noticeably saving fuel than the 8 or the 00, and maybe a product of that is that the 92 was leading one of the lines, whereas the 8 and the 00, they were both pushers in that pack that we just had right there. So that could be a difference maker as well.
And another difference maker is going to be is that the 8 and the 92, they were working together. So how do they, on this restart, how do they coordinate to line back up? Does Ed go early? Remember, drivers have to stay in line until you get past the start-finish line. Does Ed try to go a little bit early, create some gap and some daylight between him and the 00 Brad Holmes, and allow Gary to get down behind him? It's going to be interesting to see how those two teammates decide to work together.
Absolutely, and one thing that we can't count out is the strategy of controlling both lines. If they want to go ahead, go out on a limb and guess that there's only really going to be two strong enough lines, they might want to lead both of them so that at the end of the race, one of the two of them is going to be ahead. That's always a strategy that comes up in Daytona. A little harder here in Talladega where there's a wider track and more line availability, but here we go. We're about to find out.
Pace car down and away once again here to begin lap number 57. Green flag is out and everybody's up to the loud pedal, 4 gears strong. Big moves by the 92 there in the 0-0, and we swap positions.
Yeah, that was interesting. Might need some kind of a look back on it or so, because we had not gotten to the finish line yet. It looked like we had a couple cars out of their respective lines. So an interesting restart right there, but the 92 of Ed Jurgen does indeed want to get up in front of the 8 teammate Gary Bowman, and we are just about 4 wide. Larry Bell will tuck in behind the 8 car right there, as the 77 is now going to get a huge shot. Andrew Popejoy down the middle with help from Greg Mitchell in the 55, or Nicholas Popejoy, sorry.
The 77 is going to slide up just a little bit. Brad Holmes, Nick Popejoy, and Ed Jurgen, they're your top 3 cars as they come out of turns 3 and 4, which is going to give us just a handful of laps remaining out here tonight for the Talladega 60-lap race here.
We are going to cross the line as Brad Holmes leads with the 76 of Rick Thompson on his bumper, and look who it is, Amanda Sherman in the 88. Linked up with Rick Thompson, that 76, those two like to work together as we are here with 3 laps to go. Brad Holmes leading the charge, and the first 2, maybe 3 trucks on the bottom are now clear, and that's interesting. We've got Fred Thompson, 4th in line on the bottom, all the way up towards the front. That's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out with Fred Thompson up in the mix here.
3 by 3 by 3 by 3. They're going to enter turn number 3 as they work lap number 58, coming to 2 laps to go here in just about 30 seconds or so. Now the top line of the 92 and the 8, they start to slide back just a little bit. They're working on trying to get that run as they come into the tri-oval. The 77 with the lead. Now give it back to the 0-0 Brad Holmes as they come across. This one's going to be too close to call, Cody.
That it is, and if we get a finish that looks like this, we might have to review it because we're not going to know who got it. But as they remain 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, 4 lines deep, we've got all 3 of the leaders about neck and neck. It's going to come down to the 2nd place car in line, 2nd place truck. We've got Gary Bowman in the 8 on the high side. We've got Greg Mitchell in the 55 in the middle, and Rick Thompson in the 76 on the bottom. One thing to keep an eye out for is Rick Thompson in that 76. He's been blinking a little bit all night, so we'll see if that plays an effect at all.
And I think we just saw the 76 overheat just a little bit. We saw him have to back up off of the 0-0 as they come around through turns 3 and 4 for the second to last time out here tonight. They're going to see the white flag here in just a moment. But I think we just saw Rick Thompson overheat a little bit and have to get out of the throttle and cool that engine down real quick and make one more attempt at it.
Chris Rose on the 23 with a very aggressive move, and there they go. The 15 of Andrew Popejoy up and over, rolling. We are staying green. The white flag had come out.
We stay green here, and we have a 9-10 truck breakaway. Rick Thompson, Brad Holmes on the bottom lane here, fighting Nick Popejoy, being pushed by Greg Mitchell, and Gary Bowman and Ed Jurgen working lane 3.
Here we go. Those top 2 lines are going to have all the momentum in the world right now. Nobody wants to help that bottom line. We've got the 77 of Nicholas Popejoy edging out ahead. Greg Mitchell now going to fall into the bottom. We've got Mike Stiverson going to go 3 wide in the 20 truck, try and make a run for himself as the bottom line now with 5 trucks nose to tail closes in. On the back of the 77, they go around the 0-0, the 20 into the wall.
Here comes Greg Mitchell trying to take a look on the 77 of Nick Popejoy. Here comes Rick Thompson trying to take a look on second place, but at the line it's going to be Nick Popejoy in the 77, followed by Greg Mitchell and Rick Thompson. That's going to be your top 3. Holy moly, Cody.
What an absolutely insane final lap right there. So many different things to dissect, so many different things happening. But Chris Letts, Larry Bell going to round out the top 5. What a finish.
Nick Popejoy, a regular contender. No, actually, excuse me. That's Andrew Popejoy, who is a regular contender. Nick Popejoy comes out here and sneaks away a win after 60 laps out here at Talladega Superspeedway. And Cody, we talked about it before. It's a land of first out here.
That it is. That is a truck that we had kind of mentioned all night being really aggressive, not afraid to make some moves, and sometimes some of those moves were just, you know, an inch or two away from disaster. So to see the 77 come out on top, it makes sense with the aggression level and everything coming together at the last lap there. We had Greg Mitchell try and make a run, the 76 of Rick Thompson try and make a run, but it was a little too late. The 77 had played that perfectly, was in the right place at the right time, and held on to make it happen.
Well, Cody, as we're going to step away for just a moment as we gather your top three finishers out here real quick, and we'll be back with some post-race interviews. All right, back up here in the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. We've caught up with your third place finisher out here tonight, Rick Thompson in the 76 machine. Rick, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Tom. How are you doing?
Hey, we're doing okay. That looked like you had your hands full there, coming with 10 laps to go, 5 laps to go, and then on the white flag lap, kind of bring us through those last 2.5 miles coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and you know, everybody is 3 wide, and you know, everybody's stacked up. And it's just hard to find a opening, so you just kind of have to pick and choose your way through the field. And got lucky with a couple of incidents happening, and I didn't get caught up in them. But you know, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. And then at the end, I thought I might have had a shot at. I had a really good run on the outside, and Nick just threw a really good block at the end there, and kind of held me up there long enough to keep me a third.
So we go into next week's race. We set the stages to be the same as next week. You're 6 points ahead of, I believe it's Amanda Sherman, going into next week's race. What did you learn tonight? And maybe you don't share all your secrets, right? But what did you pick up tonight that you carry over into next Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, learned a lot about like the fuel, how much fuel mileage we could get on it. And I know when I'm going to have to pit and when I don't have to pit. So I think that's going to help out for next week. Also, you know, I feel like I got some good drafting help with a couple of guys out there that I'm going to try to work with probably next week. And obviously, you know, you could see who the fast guys were and who the ones that you didn't kind of want to be around because they were all over the place. So I think all of those things are going to help for next week, for sure.
Well, there you go. I mean, those are all things that you're going to remember for next week as we get ready to kick you out of here. You're gonna keep the haulers down here in Talladega, Alabama for the next 7 days, Rick. But anybody you want to thank, say hello to as we close out your third place finish out here tonight.
Yeah, thanks to you and Cody for doing the broadcast tonight. That's really awesome. I'm looking forward to that tag team for next season. And thanks to my dad, he did a really good job. I want to give him a shout out. He was running up there with all of us all night. And yeah, thanks to all the other competitors out there. I know Amanda's going to be tough to beat next week. She's got her eyes on it, and she's really good. So I'm hoping that I can have a finish close to next week that I have this week and stay in the playoffs.
Well, Rick, best of luck to you next week, and we'll see how the points shake out, and we'll maybe be able to catch up with you in victory lane next week, maybe 2 spots better.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, kicking Rick out of here, and our second place finisher, I believe, is joining us here.
All right, I've caught up with second place finisher, the 55 of Greg Mitchell. And coming to the line, Greg, it looked like you had the slightest window of opportunity, maybe just needed that finish line pushed even further back towards turn 1 here to make it happen. But walk us through that final lap, because that looked crazy.
Yeah, that was fun. I was just talking with Nick. They were dropping like flies behind us because I had Andrew pushing us, and then he got turned, and Mike was pushing us, then he got turned, and so I don't really know what happened behind us, but I owed Nick one from about a year ago because we ran 1-2, and he pushed me to a victory back then, so I owed him one. So I was latching on to his rear bumper and repaying the favor tonight. So it worked out.
Absolutely, and that's one less favor you have to repay next week in an official points-paying race, the regular season finale, of course. What were some of the things that you were able to pick up on and learn tonight, running with everyone else? You know, pretty much a mirror sort of event to what we're going to see next week. Obviously, a little bit different with points and people racing maybe a little differently, but fuel-wise and strategy-wise and how people raced around you. Was there anything that surprised you, or kind of was it what you expected?
A little bit of everything, I think. I mean, I think the middle lane isn't that bad. A little sketchy depending on who's around you, but the high line can get a nice run if you've got a good group with you. But it kind of turned into a fuel strategy there at the end again, which seems like every week it turns into that, which is funny how that kind of works out. But so that last leg, I was honestly saving fuel till the end, so I had enough to even do a green white checkered and go hard at the end. So I don't know if I learned anything new. Actually, I would say that these things are pushing a lot better through the corners than they used to. I don't know if that was in the update or not, but you could really push hard in the corners and they stayed pretty stable. So that was good. You do that for about 2 laps and then your engine's yelling at you.
Yeah, absolutely. These trucks are definitely quick to overheat, but it was a good performance tonight. Good, solid runner-up finish, and a good foundation to work on going into next week for our regular season finale. Who do you got to thank for the performance tonight, Greg?
Well, thanks to you guys for jumping in the booth this week. I know you're testing out stuff. Hopefully it was smooth for you. I'm sure it's an awesome
It
broad.
was not.
It was not smooth. Okay. I had wishful thinking. That's okay. That's what this week's for, right? Working up the bugs. But yeah, thanks to you guys for calling the race. I'm looking forward to going back and watching it. Thanks to AJ and Nick. Those are my 2 nephews. So we were working together this week, and Mike was latched onto us at the end there too. So thanks to those guys for working together with me.
Sounds good. That is Greg Mitchell, runner-up tonight, and we are going to pull up the 77. I think Tom caught up with him.
Yeah, 77 Nicholas Popejoy comes out here and gets the win here in the Talladega 60 race here tonight on an off week for the Cyber Thunder Racing League. Nicholas, congratulations on your win out here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, man, so I want to ask you about a couple of things, right? And then we'll get into the final lap. But you last pitted on, I believe it was like lap 36 or 37, and Cody and I were up here and we were trying to figure out the fuel game for everybody who didn't come into pit road before. How close were you? Could you have made a green white checkered if we needed to?
No, I definitely couldn't have made a green white checker. I had about a lap left.
So you were kind of really close there. Yeah, we were talking about that, and there was a bunch of drivers from like I think it was like 10th down to maybe like 20th or something that did elect to come in, and Cody and I were concerned about the fuel, but did not have that come to play. And then so we take the final green flag here. You get a great push. You make a couple of really great blocks coming out of turn 4, coming out of turn 2 to put the 77 out front and kind of bring us through what you saw in your mirror and how you made those moves.
Well, I saw that my Uncle Greg got behind me, and that was pretty important for me if he was coming with me up the middle. So I just kind of sent it in the middle. I wasn't extremely comfortable in the top lane this race. I hadn't really raced a super speedway in a while, but you know, I just pushed it up the middle, and since I had him pushing me, I felt pretty confident. And we were gonna try to keep it with the pack until that to that last back straight, and then he kind of gave me the push I needed. And we both were able to block it down on the bottom and hold out for the win.
Well, I've had your Uncle Greg pushing me a couple of times, and while it is concerning to see that 55 in your mirror, you know that you got one of the best pushing behind you. So, Nick, we're going to open this up. Anybody you want to say thanks, hello to, any of that sort as we get set to close out your win out here tonight?
I just want to say thank you to you for letting me race here today, and obviously thanks to my Uncle Greg getting me that win, kind of a little bit of payback from last season. Just thank you for my family for watching.
Cool. Well, there you have it. Nick Popejoy comes away with the win in a 60-lap race at Talladega. Cody, that was quite the event to watch out here tonight.
That it was, Tom. That it was, and I think that's going to be a really good indication for what we can expect next week for our regular season finale. We got to set that grid for the playoffs to get 25 season 1 rounding out the right way. Of course, next week when we return for that points-paying race, you can catch it over on the OSR network with Joe White doing those broadcasts for the remainder of that season. Excited for it, as you and I will both be on track for that, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, I won't be there for it. I'll be watching from somewhere else. I'm going to miss that one, but it was good to watch this one. I'm sure it'll be good to watch that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime you go to Talladega, everybody tunes in, everybody straps in. They want to watch the race at Talladega. Talladega is the great unknown. You never know who's going to find their way up towards the front at the end. As we begin to take a look at the finishing results out here tonight, Nick Popejoy comes away with the win. Greg Mitchell comes home second. Rick Thompson comes home in position number 3 on the evening. Chris Letts in the 65 machine snuck through the last lap carnage, comes away with a 4th place finish. Larry Bell, Gary Bowman, Ed Jurgen, Angel Vasquez, Clay Sampson, and Casey Tomlinson is your top 10.
In 11th place, just outside the top 10, Mike Stiverson in the 20 truck, followed by Brad Holmes in the 00. Amanda Sherman, Andrew Popejoy, and Chris Rose round out the top 15 at the line. Fred Thompson in 16th, followed by Matthew Semple in the 16 truck. Leroy Koblenz, we talked about a lot tonight in the 61, wound up in 18th, unlucky towards the end. Cody Gibson in the Cheetos, number 1 and 19th, and Eric Anderson in that 43 rounds out your top 20.
And the couple of DNFs on the evening. Tanner Marr comes home in 21st. Corey Sherman comes home in 22nd place. Andy Cork, wrong place, wrong time, multiple times for Andy Cork in the 41 machine. He's going to come home 23rd place. Lee Campbell and Dustin Ping rounds out our field of 25 drivers out here tonight, Cody.
Well, Tom, looking forward to next week. Looking forward to next season as a whole, and what we have to see coming up. This should be a pretty exciting time as we get ready to jump into the playoffs for the rest of the Cyber Thunder Tuesday night series season here in the trucks. It's going to be an interesting one, going to be a fun one, especially with the wild card and the stage points that we have in place for this season. We won't really know until it's over, and even once it's over, we won't know for a couple hours after the fact.
Yeah, and then we get set to go. Cody, you're not going to be here next week, but we'll be racing next week, like you were saying, on the OSR network. So make sure you tune into that. Hey, if you didn't already, hit that like and subscribe button here on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. Cody, thank you so much for popping up here. It was an absolute pleasure, even working through some of the diffdifficulties that we had. We gotta get a new cameraman, but we'll see if we can hire one.
We'll take a trip down to the camera truck, and we'll wring some necks, and we'll revoke some bonuses, and threaten some holiday pay, all of that kind of stuff. We'll make it right. We'll get it right. But as it was a really good first broadcast out there, really good experience. We chose a really good track to do it at as well. Talladega, all the chaos that ensues. It was a good time, and I'm excited for the next one.
Well, Cody, let's get on out of here, and we'll see everybody next week on track from Talladega again on the OSR Network.